Sorry,
Yeah,
like,
please.
in recruiting, the recruiting industry in 2020, 21, we did the same thing, as we came out of the pandemic and there was a shortage of recruiters, and the
Yeah,
industry hired a lot of people who'd never worked in recruitment before and ended up being very successful. And we diversified the kind of profile of recruiters in most organizations for a year or two before they all lost their jobs in the tech companies. But I think, to me, that the bigger thing about all of this, like, what we've talked about up to now, is the complexity of this, the fact that, it depends. We've said that a few times in different areas. To me, I keep coming back to is that the modern recruiter or talent advisor who works with the hiring manager, she just has a bigger role to play, and she's going to have to broaden out beyond standard talent acquisition, because all of these challenges, how do you basically build a skills profile of a job in the first place? How do you basically manage the fact that you can't just put, an entire team in place where no one has experience but everyone has skills? It's a really bad match. You need to match experience with skills and have the right balance. You're going to need to really advise the hiring manager how to do that. You're going to maybe pull on the internal L&D resources of the organization to upskill in certain areas where there's gaps, to reskill existing employees, to maybe move some folks over. I think, what it screams to me is that the role of the talent acquisition professional, that recruiter, is going to have to evolve, because, let's face it, the majority of recruiters screen candidates. They don't even interview candidates. Let's be honest here, right? And it's set up that way. They're there to screen, to just pre-qualify in and out a certain few things, pass them on to a hiring manager, and the hiring organization begins the interview process. They have a real mix of experience in doing this and capability of interviewing, and it's hard to standardize that process. We're going to have to change a lot of that. And I think the person in the middle of all of that is currently called a recruiter, and she has a big challenge because her job became much more complex. She's balancing these different needs. If we all agree on the it depends, she's probably the person who has to influence, well, which one do we use it for, not use it for? What's the right mix? And I see that not as a challenge. I see it as a huge opportunity. It's exciting, right? But I think it is where the talent acquisition professional has to go. I think she has to embrace the fact that the difference between skills, competencies, behaviors, different assessment models are for her to bring to the table. She needs to be the advisor to the business. She needs to manage those different folks. And that's where this is kind of, to me, that where is this going and how do you solve for it? You need that person to really own that and become better at and more educated on these different issues, more skilled on these different issues, if I dare say it.
For sure. And just on that point, I mean, it can be overwhelming, really, when you really dig into the skills that are available. I mean, if you look at the European skills taxonomy, I think they've got over 14,000 skills listed. And you go onto LinkedIn, there's 40 plus thousand skills. I think I saw accountant as a skill as well. So, I mean, there is a big piece of work to be done around the language around skills. And where do we start there? Because, I mean, it can be overwhelming, not just for employers, but also for candidates.
But
I,
Barry,
I
if
agree.
you start there, I think, to Terry, you made the point. If you start there, you're in trouble. I loved
Yeah.
your point. Pick the top three. Like, if you start thinking about 40,000 skills, you're never getting anywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So
I
just
also
keep
think,
it simple.
Terry,
Go on,
I
Terry.
agree with
Yeah.
Johnny. I agree with Johnny in terms of his point around the role of the recruiter. And I do think it has evolved massively in the last number of years. And, the recruiter role is that partner now in the business, that is helping the hiring manager make those right decisions, because the recruiting manager, the recruiter is bringing a vast amount of experience of hiring for similar types roles in other sectors and other industries, but yet, so they can bring a lot of value in helping a hiring manager narrow down the options in terms of where they're going to go next for particular roles. So I do think, recruiters, this is your chance to shine, as you've been shining all along, but this is another chance for you to